Today, we're diving into a really fascinating story about music, about hidden biases, and about how one incredibly simple object managed to change an entire industry forever.
But first, let me ask you something. Imagine you're in charge of hiring someone. What things, besides the raw skill, might, sway your decision? Maybe how confident they seem, or perhaps they just remind you of yourself a little bit. Most of us like to think we're fair. But what happens when the system itself has a thumb on the scale?
Get this. Back in 1970, only 6% of the musicians in major U.S. orchestras were women, just 6%. It was an industry that was completely and utterly dominated by men. So you have to ask, why? Was it really a question of talent? Or was there something else going on? Well, for decades, there was this cultural assumption that women just weren't cut out for a professional orchestra. Auditions were all done face-to-face, which meant a candidate's whole vibe was being judged, not just their music. And that, of course, allowed all these unconscious biases about gender and image to just creep right into every single decision. So, faced with this pretty stark imbalance, orchestras started to experiment a bit. And the solution they landed on, it wasn't some complex new program or policy. It was something almost shockingly simple. That's it. A literal, physical screen placed between the musician auditioning and the judges listening. It's an idea so basic, it was actually revolutionary. The whole goal was just to remove every single visual distraction, forcing the judges to focus only on the one thing that should matter, the music. And this new process got a name, the blind audition. By hiding who the performer was, the idea was to strip away any and all preconceived notions that judges might have about their gender, their age, their appearance, leaving nothing but the pure sound of the instrument. And the change was just profound. Before the screen, how you looked mattered. After the screen, it was totally irrelevant. The whole process shifted from being wide open to bias to being specifically designed for fairness. This wasn't some minor tweak. This fundamentally changed the rules of the entire game. So, with this new system in place, the big question became, right, would it actually make a difference? Could this one simple screen really be powerful enough to reshape an entire profession? So, did hiding the musicians from view actually lead to more women getting hired? Oh yeah, the results were nothing short of staggering. I mean, just look at this graph. That upward trend is undeniable. As more and more orchestras started using blind auditions through the 70s and 80s, the percentage of female musicians just climbed and climbed, showing this direct link to a single structural change. You can really see it build over time. You start at just 6% in 1970. Then, as the first blind auditions kick in, it creeps up to 10%. By 1993, it's more than tripled to 21%. And by the mid-90s, it hits 35%. The change was a bit slow at first, but then it really took off as the practice became standard. In fact, studies actually found that the blind audition process, all by itself, boosted a woman's chance of advancing to the next round by 50%. I mean, think about that for a second. A 50% jump in fairness, just from putting up a screen. That is an absolutely incredible result from such a simple fix. Okay, so we know the screen worked, but why did it work so well? To really get at that, we've got to look at the psychology of our own expectations and just how powerfully they can shape the world around us. You see, bias isn't always some big, malicious thing. A lot of the time, it's totally unconscious. If a judge holds some deep-down, unexamined belief that men are just better suited for an orchestra, their brain might actually hear a woman's performance as being less skilled, even if it's technically perfect. The expectation literally colors the perception. And this phenomenon actually has a name. It's called the Pygmalion effect. It's this idea that what we expect from other people can become a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. If you have high expectations for someone, they tend to perform better. And if you have low expectations, well, that can hold them back. In the orchestra's case, the screen simply removed the trigger for those low expectations. There was this classic study back in 1964 that showed this perfectly. Teachers were told that certain students in their class, who were actually chosen completely at random, were intellectual bloomers who were about to take off. Because the teachers expected more from them, they subconsciously gave them more attention, more encouragement, and guess what? Those randomly picked kids ended up showing way more academic growth. Our beliefs can literally create our reality. But as powerful as this screen was, it wasn't a magic wand. It did an amazing job fixing the hiring process, but it couldn't fix what happened once a musician was already in the chair. Take the incredible story of Abby Conant. She won her spot as the principal trombonist for the Munich Philharmonic in a blind audition. But when the screen came down and the conductor saw she was a woman, he was shocked. He spent years trying to demote her just because of her gender. Her story is this powerful reminder that a fair hiring process is really just the first step. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, it shows us that bias is often baked into our systems. It's not just in our hits. But it also shows that really simple structural changes can have a absolutely massive impact. And ultimately, if we want to create a world based on merit, it means we have to be proactive about finding and removing these hidden barriers to talent.
And that leaves us with one final big question to think about. The world of classical music found this incredibly powerful tool for fairness. So, where else could we use it? In tech interviews? In university admissions? How about in who gets venture capital funding? If a simple screen can make that much of a difference, what other screens are just waiting for us to invent?